So this Thursday at 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific, 11 if you're Central, like I am in Texas. But we will be going live. We being from my channel, I will be going live with Chandler Baker through GMA Book Club. I am really, really excited. Chandler's newest book, The Husbands, is my book club pick for this month. It's a book that I couldn't put down. I think I devoured it in a weekend. And Chandler's just one of those really great writers where the characters are so well thought out. They're so lively. They're so vibrant and fun. And just the relationships that take place and the inner workings of those relationships and complications and what arises. And then the thriller throughout all of them is always a blast and fun. So I'm really excited about this conversation and to hear excited to hear what you think, what your thoughts are. Send me any questions that you have for Chandler and we will hopefully get them answered on Thursday. Go to GMA Book Club Thursday, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. Hi, GMA Book Clubbers. I'm Chandler Baker, author of this month's GMA Book Club pick, The Husbands, and I'm going to be talking live with Jen Padalecki, who has her own wonderful book club. So we are going to try to add her in here and pray for me because I am not a professional at this. Okay. Hi, Jen. Except, fingers crossed, everyone. Did we do it? No, we did not. Except. There, I did it! I did it! Hi! Victory. Hi! Okay, only like medium, like sweaty, like nervousness that I wouldn't do it right. Okay, we did it.
Every time I'm on these things, I always get so flustered and I have to change my t-shirt like 2 or 3 times because I get so nervous.
Yes. Okay. I know. We had like a lot of like quick text back and forth. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. We did it though. Like, we're here.
We did it. We did it. We've accomplished all we need to today.
Yeah, exactly. You can add Instagrammer now to your resume.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is so exciting. I'm so excited to sit and chat with you about your book, which is it's so fantastic and so wonderful. It was such a perfect page turner this summer, and it was the perfect way, I think, to end the summer for me selfishly, because it was just like it was so indulgent, and we all had COVID recently, and I got to just seclude myself in my room and just kind of plow through it, and it was just such a blast. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I feel like this book like brought us together because now we've met a couple of times in real life. Yeah. We're both Austin moms, so yeah, it's been really
I know.
Nice.
I have to say I'm so impressed by you. One, I love the fact that you're my neighbor, because now I feel like I can call on you for advice, because not only like you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a full-time author, you are a corporate attorney, you've written 6 young adult books, young adult novels, and now you've written 2 major bestsellers, and I just don't know how you do it all. I mean, it's so impressive and so amazing. So I have to just ask, like, how did you get your start in this, and how did you go from corporate attorney into full-time author, and what was that process like for you?
Yeah, well, I feel like growing up, I was always a huge reader, I think like you, but I didn't really think writing was like a real career. I didn't really know any authors. It just felt, I don't know, I didn't feel like you could make a living sort of as an artist. So as I went through college, I always had the idea that I would go to law school. So I was pursuing law school the whole time. But junior year of college, I sort of made like an agreement with a friend from high school. And she said, I really want to run a marathon. And I said, I really want to try to write a book. And so we both did it during that year. And I just really caught the bug, and I decided, okay, I'm going to look and just see how you get published. And as I was pursuing going to law school, I felt like I got just enough success to keep pursuing writing, sort of lockstep with law school. So that first book, of course, never saw the light of day, but I wrote another one. I got an agent my first year of law school. And then I went on to start my job as a corporate attorney. I got a book deal my second year as an associate.
And so it was like every time I felt like I was just about to quit because I couldn't manage both, there was like a little carrot that was enough to keep me going. And, you know, I practiced full time for about 8 years, had a baby in there, and just kind of kept doing it by writing in 15-minute increments, truly, until I was able to make it my full time gig.
That's amazing. And I will say, like, it just pays off to really stick with the art and stick with your gut of like, I love this. I got to find an angle and a way. I know that I kind of felt that as well, like, with acting and mommyhood, especially when you get into the throes of having kids and it's like that push and pull of like, I love the art and I miss myself and finding that sort of, I don't know if kernel's a word, but that fire within you and to continue to do it and just find some sort of outlet, whatever that is. And I just love that you stuck with writing and you pursued it. And I'm so grateful that you did, because now we have all these wonderful books that we can read over and over again. I loved the Whisper Network, first of all. That was like so fun. And you had all these little plots and twists and turns, and I absolutely loved it. And I was so excited to read The Husbands, which was an amazing follow-up to that. And I really loved how you expose the threshold for the household management, and who was left to sweep up those messes and solve those problems. And it's something that, like, I often cringe about, and because I cringe like whining about those issues, and it's a hot button. And I'm pretty sure that there isn't even a household item on my husband's to-do list when it comes to his to-do list and my to-do list.
Well, and I feel like we both have very like supportive husbands in general. And
yes.
I feel like, like I'm only interested in talking about the guys that are actually trying and that are, you know, think that they're doing 50%. And yet there is still so much on our plates.
Always. And that's the thing. And that's what I really loved about your book, is that you expose that, and everyone's threshold is different and expectations are different and what that looks like. And I also, when I was reading more about The Husbands and about how this sort of came about, I saw that you were reading and discussing a book called Fair Play, which I clearly need to go pick up at Book People, because it sounds like a fantastic read to sort of figure out delegating in that space and stuff. So can you tell me a little bit about how the inception of The Husbands came about? Was it from Fair Play? Was it something that sparked your interest in, you know, from your own life, or where did this come from?
Yeah, I feel like Fair Play was a big part of it, but I really think the idea was kind of seeded back when I was going and talking to a lot of women about Whisper Network, because I would talk to readers and they would say things like, okay, well, how do we make corporate culture better for women going forward? And in those discussions, they would say, well, corporate culture probably won't get truly better for women until there's more women at the top of the corporate ladder. But in the same breath, they would also say, like, it's not always that I'm not being offered the promotions or that I won't be given more responsibilities at work. I'm opting out in a lot of ways. I'm putting myself on the mommy track and stepping away because I'm so overwhelmed with my responsibilities at home as well. And that was something that really struck a nerve with me, because there had been a time after the birth of my first child, my daughter, that I'd considered asking for a reduction in pay, because I just wanted to do anything I could to sort of reduce that feeling that I was failing a little bit, both at home and at work. So there was that, and that was kind of marinating. And then when it came time to write my next book, I was 7 months pregnant, and I'd been really struggling to land on an idea. And I went on this girl's little just hotel stay for a night with a couple of my law school friends that are moms, and we got to talking about Fair Play, and we just like talked about it over brunch, because we had all been trying to do it in our homes. It was actually a book that my husband brought to me, but it wasn't as easy to implement as, you know, we were all kind of failing at it a little bit. So what I was really struck by was how long we talked about it. And I thought, like, there is something there. And that week I got sort of this idea for a reverse Stepford Wives, and that's how it came to be.
Oh, well, I love it. That's it's certainly something that I feel like comes up quite a bit and quite often. And it's like, I feel like, at least in our home, And like you said, we have incredibly supportive husbands. I mean, I think that's partly why I feel so guilty sometimes, is because he's working really hard to provide a great life, you know, and to pay or own his lion's share. And so it's like that balance of you know, delegating and creating, you know, like you were a corporate attorney and yet you still have to deal with children and the house and you know, your life, and with a partner you have to sort of figure out that balance, and that's really it's tough to navigate. It's hard.
It is. I know. And it's like all these things, all the, like, as I was reading this, I would see so many articles that are like, solve division of domestic labor in 5 easy steps and those kinds of things. And it would make it seem so easy that only like even an idiot could do it. And I was like, am I an idiot? Why are we struggling so much to talk about this?
Right.
But they would say things like, you know, it's all about communication. I'm like, but communication is exactly what's so hard about it, because what happens in our homes feels so personal. And
Yeah.
certainly some of the things that we fall into is, you know, how we talk about it to each other, which can be like, we call it scoreboarding, like throwing lists at each other
Yes.
of what we're each handling. Like,
And it gets so technical and so unromantic that it just like dividing it all up.
It makes you feel so unsexy, right?
Yes. Oh my
to
gosh.
have this inner monologue or to have this external monologue, as it often is in our house. Like, I take it so personally when my husband tries to like add something to my to-do list. We're both super defensive about it. It's just...
Oh yeah, and defensive in different ways too. Like Jared will come in and be like, make a what I think is a critique, and he's just noticing something that doesn't even bother him, but it like it's those little micro you know, aggressions that suddenly like build up and build up, and
yeah. Well, I think like it really feels like an attack on motherhood for us. Like, if you're not performing motherhood perfectly, I think it can really feel core to your identity.
Yeah, and you know, and there's so much that's changing and evolving now with motherhood, and especially now with the pandemic and stuff. Like, what do you think? Do you think that, in your opinion, you know, what do you think about how motherhood has changed since COVID, since we've been in the pandemic, and now we have to sort of, it really has shown a light on domestic life and dividing up things, and like, what's your take on that? Do you think it's going to change and turn it on its head or evolve, or are we going to come out of this and sort of like be on equal footing more? What do you think?
Oh gosh. I mean, you know, it's so strange that like when I published Whisper Network, it was like into the Me Too movement, and we thought, oh, this is so timely. Like, it's coming out in this time period. And then when I came up with the husbands, I had no plans that it would be particularly timely, but certainly the pandemic has truly thrust these issues into the spotlight. And I think at the beginning, I was very hopeful that it was making motherhood and the invisible work of motherhood much more visible. And I do think we're talking about it a lot more. I worry that it's still women that are talking about it a lot more. I definitely find women tend to be a little like bendier with their schedules. The person that, like, if a kid is sick, they're going to shuffle everything around and make sure they can stay home. And I think that has happened on a much larger scale during the pandemic, unfortunately. So it's great that it's part of the national conversation. It's great that everyone is seeing that parenting is not like a luxury hobby. It has to be done in society. Like, having kids is a good thing at large that people need to do, whether you're a parent or whether you're not a parent. And that's going to bleed into work sometimes. At the same time, like, the proof is kind of in the pudding about how much more women have left the workforce during the pandemic. I mean, it's been at least like 4 times the rate of men, and that's really scary. I think we're going to see long-lasting impact on the gender pay gap, and stuff like that is really disheartening to me. So I don't think we fixed it quite yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm and it is very disheartening. Sorry. Yeah, it's just it is. And I think there's a part of me that was hoping that by shining a light on both, you know, on everyone being at home and dividing up, you know, who's working at what hours, one of the authors that I really loved, who seemed to sort of have it navigated, was Elizabeth McCracken, who's a
Okay.
local Austinite. She was saying that during the pandemic, they really had to divide things up, and they rented a separate apartment where one of them would go, and her husband's also a writer, so he would
Okay.
go and write, and then she would go and write, and then they would sort of divide up the household stuff. And I was like very hopeful after speaking with her, like, wow, that's such a
Yeah.
great idea when it works in that capacity. But I agree, the more people that I speak with, it does seem like women are having to take a step back and, not a step back, but just not go back to work as quickly as we would all like, and have that sort of, I was hoping it would move forward more.
Yeah,
Um,
I love that. I love hearing people's solutions. Like I've been asking for people's solutions a lot during this,
yeah.
and one that we're trying to implement right now in our house is having like a family meeting on Sunday nights to just tell each
Yeah.
other everything in our calendars rather than doing it piecemeal.
Yeah.
Um, Medium success.
At least there's
But
success involved, so.
at least there's, yes, some success. But yes, like with the Elizabeth McCracken thing, like I think something my husband says, which probably rings true to a lot of men, is like he would almost rather me just like get out of the house and like go work somewhere else, so he is like master of the domain rather than having me kind of like there
Yeah, same.
directing.
Same, same. But I feel like it goes both ways in different situations too. I feel like, we both have our like little nooks and domains. It's like, hey, wait, this is my space. You're doing this wrong. Or,
Yes,
but
yes.
and what has been your feedback from your male readers, and what did your husband think after he read The Husbands, and what has been like the response from other male readers?
Yeah. I mean, I won't purport that this is like read by masses of men. I feel like it's not, but I actually have been really pleased that so a lot of women have been sharing it with their husbands, and there have been some husbands that have actually taken it up and read it, and written me, which is so cool to
Yeah.
see. My husband obviously had some trepidation that like everybody was going to think that he was a perfect match for Hayden, that everything was verbatim going on in our house, that people were going to think he was a bad father or bad spouse. So there was definitely some of that, understandably so, I think. But so many husbands have said these are the exact conversations, like verbatim, that have happened in our house. Like, are you in our house? Have you bugged it? And I think one of my favorite comments that I've gotten was a husband that said his wife dared him to read it, and he did. And he admitted that it's not just that he doesn't see what needs to be done, it's that he's like willfully oblivious to it, that he kind of pretends not to see it. And I think there is some of that. So it's nice to see some men kind of taking ownership of that part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that your book did a great job of not critiquing things, but just exposing how complicated, I think women's lives can be without realizing it, and everything that piles up in what we see, and, if our kids are sick and what movies they're watching, and how that developmentally could, and that men are like, well, I mean, I don't mean to stereotype, but my
Yeah.
husband thinks very differently, and we are wired in different ways, and as all of us are. But I feel that you really exposed how complicated women's lives are, and it wasn't a critique, and then to be able to have fun with it in that thriller sort of format was, I don't know, all the better, because there's so many like twists and turns, and being able to play with the Stepford trope but also have fun with like the horror aspect of it was just really fun. So I really do feel like it is a book for husbands and wives, and for anyone who even doesn't have children. It's really, really a fun story. And now it's soon to be on the big screen, which is so crazy and so wild. So what is this process been like? I mean, your world must be like so wild and busy and crazy. And how are you feeling about everything? And I would love, what's going on with all of that?
Yeah. I mean, that part definitely has been wild. I mean, back in October, so almost a year ago, we decided to send out just a draft of the husbands, my film agent did, and we sent it to Kristen Wiig was one of the people we sent it to on a Friday, and on Sunday we had an email from her that she had finished the book and she wanted to talk, which as an older millennial woman, that like makes my little heart sing because of course
Yeah, totally.
of course bridesmaids was like a formative experience for me.
Yeah.
And Kristen Wiig is amazing, and so we just had this great conversation, and she is a wonderful writer in her own right, and she just said, I heard you want to write the script for this, and I want to help you however I can. I want to make that happen for you, and she has. So she, introduced me to Plan B, which is Brad Pitt's production company, who introduced us to MGM. And it really came together really naturally. And I'm writing the screenplay, and it's a new skill, of course, but I'm really enjoying it. It's very much a game of subtraction. A lot less can fit in a movie.
Right.
Compared to a book, and I wrote a mystery, and I wrote a thriller. So when you take things out, you got to make sure it makes sense at the end. And it's like every piece that you take out, you really have to think about how it's going to affect the rest of the book.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel precious with it sometimes, or do you feel like, oh, I can let go? And how are you feeling about all of that? And do you feel like it's a big difference? I mean, I know you say it's like with subtraction, but do you approach it differently in your screenwriting versus in writing a book?
Yeah, I don't feel precious at all about it. In fact, I think it's so nice because you've got this published book, and at least when I look at my published books, I'm like, oh, I would love another crack at it. So it's like the second crack at writing the story and kind of tinkering with anything that bugs me. So that's great. I think the biggest thing is just like unhooking yourself from the way you thought about it. So I'm trying to like go in with blue sky, open mind, like I could change anything. What do I want? Like what would look better visually? And being the author of it, I know how many options I went through as I was writing the book and plotting it. And so I see like the rabbit holes I went down. I'm like, well, I already tried this and this didn't work because this, and this, but it's a new medium. So I really had to try to disarm myself of some of those assumptions that I felt, or conclusions I thought I already reached while writing the book, so that I have sort of a more blank space to pursue it.
That's so exciting and so fun. I know that I'm going to be the first one to sign up for a movie ticket. I'll come pick you up and we'll go.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations. Like, it just seems like so much is happening for you at once. And, there's no one that I know who deserves it more. I really love reading your books, and you're just so, I just don't know how you juggle it all. It's just, it's incredible to me. And so,
you've got 3 kids and you're doing it.
I don't know. I feel like fake it till you make it, I guess. I don't know. I still remember the first time I met you and I showed up, and I showed up. I had just I had gotten a laser facial a couple days prior, and I didn't realize that the flakes of skin were falling off. I was like,
I feel like only you notice.
It's totally motherhood. It's just like motherhood. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, I'm still in awe though how much you juggle and what you can do, and you're just such a role model, and I'm just so thrilled for you. So you were, you started out as a lawyer, and then you started this career path. Like how did you juggle all of that? How did you know when to, put one passion down and continue with the writing? And what advice would you give someone who is in a career path and wants to pivot?
Okay. Well, I want to know the same from you, because I feel like you've had sort of the same, or you've had some similar challenges or choices to make, and you're balancing motherhood and career. I I think a couple things. One, as we get older, I think that it often feels like our choices narrow. Like once you decide to go to one college, you're not going to go to another college. Once you decide to go to law school, you're probably not going to medical school. It feels like our career choices narrow and narrow, narrow, but I think that they don't narrow as much as we think they do or as quickly
Right.
as we think they do. I feel like you can be more than one thing at once. And I was really nervous about that when I was earlier on in my career. I thought I was kind of doing something wrong by pursuing two things. And then I don't, in our family, I feel like our sort of motto is we hold off on waiting big decisions for as long as possible and then hope that the answer becomes clear to us. So as I was writing, books and Whisper Network was coming out, it was becoming really overwhelming. And there just got to be a point, like I was pregnant with my second child. I was working like a crazy person at the law firm. We'd gotten the Reese's book club pick. It was just like everything was converging on itself. And I felt like I was going to have a mental breakdown at that point. And it was like kind of the first time I'd reached that point of just like, I cannot continue like this. And then the answer became really clear to us. So, some of that was financial, of course, like what we could make. My career had progressed to a point writing where it became feasible, but a lot of it was just like waiting until that point where I knew in my bones what I had to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you acted on it, and I love that. I love sticking to your guns and sticking to your art form and being able to make a career path for yourself. I think it's very inspiring, and I love stories like that. I too, understand what that's like and juggling both
Yes.
career and where to pivot and how to do it. And I feel like often I get nervous with imposter syndrome or like perfectionism and, having to let that go and being able to talk to girlfriends and chat through it has just been really helpful, Now
Do you
I know
have like a
that's
guiding philosophy of like when to pivot?
Gosh, I mean, I don't honestly. I think financially it plays a role, like you said, because knowing that, like, oh, I can make a career out of this, I can stand on my own 2 feet, is definitely a great indicator. But I also feel that as long as you feel fed, I mean, that's what that's as long as I feel creatively fed, and I'm able to do it and make ends meet, like, I feel like that's a good, a good guiding light for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard, it's, I all those like insecurities and fears and that I personally have that sort of get in my way and get me a little bit flustered and stuff. But
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
get it.
it's hard to do it all. And
I
there's so
know.
much pressure as a
Yeah.
mom, as a woman, as a partner, as it's just there's I think you had this great quote in the beginning that women can't have everything. What is it? That you can't have everything, but you can't have it all,
Women
but you
can
can have
do,
everything at different times.
yeah.
I'm
I think
butchering
it's
it, but
women can do anything, but they can't do everything.
everything. Thank you, which is true, and we can, but we do have to pick and choose, and it's like knowing when to and why, and so many things go into play. But
Yeah.
you have a major bestseller, Whisper Network. It was New York Times. Reese Witherspoon. You now have The Husbands, which is another, I'm sure to be a sold out off the bookshelves like bestseller, and being made into a movie. I know that you're clearly insanely busy, but I just have to ask, what's next? Are you going to take a time out? Are you going to continue to write more books? Are you going to focus on big screen? Like what do you think is the next step, and what can we all look forward to?
I'm not going to take a break because I am a menace when I don't have something to work on. Like ask my family, like
Totally get it.
the true nightmare is me not working.
Totally get it.
So I just finished a draft of my third book, which hopefully will come out next year. My third adult book, if all goes well, which who knows. And yes, I'm then finishing the script for The Husbands and pursuing some screenwriting projects, and I have another young adult book coming out in a couple weeks, which
Oh my gosh.
Who planned that?
That's incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like to have a lot of irons in the fire. I feel like I can't get anything done without being close to having a heart attack.
I feel the same way. I totally
Yeah.
understand.
You gotta have that like adrenaline going. Like I might fail, like I might let someone down, then I can get things done.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you make it look effortless. I'm sure that there's a lot more that goes into it, but the way that you just put it out there and you carry yourself so well and you create such beautiful work. So I know that I'm so looking forward to reading your next books and see your work on the big screen and just watch you continue, to just navigate so successfully. It's just fantastic.
Thank you. Well, you too. And you've done so much for books yourself. Like
Thanks.
you're making books so cool. Do you have any other book recommendations?
Oh gosh.
Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
No, I love it. I love it. I actually, so I just love reading, and I feel like it's losing its momentum, and everyone is, writing in acronyms, and I'm like, what does that even mean? So I love talking to authors and understanding where they come from and how they started, their books and the process and all of it. And books take you to a whole other world. And so that being said, I have a bunch of books that I recommend. I really loved reading Malibu Rising.
Oh, me too.
It
So
was
good.
so good and so fun. I love I think it's The Seven Wives of Evelyn Hugo, which was like also another great book by Taylor
Read.
Yes, so good. And then the Animal was fantastic.
Yep.
I'm just starting the Overstory, which I've heard great things about. And then there's a book by Merlin Sheldrake, which is a little, it's not necessarily a page turner, but it's all about mushrooms and the wonderful world of mushrooms, called Entangled, which I'm also like really loving dabbling in. So
Okay.
I don't know. I think it depends on the day, and it's kind of like, rather than turning on Bravo, which I also love doing, like I'll love to just sit with a good book and get lost. So yeah, I think those are mine. Anything that you recommend right now?
I really loved Fierce Little Thing by Miranda Beverly Whittemore just recently. And I'm reading right now We Begin at the End, which I have to finish before book club tonight.
What's it called?
We Begin at the End. I can't remember the author. It was a Barnes & Noble book club pick. But
Fun. I love it.
Yes, I'm rushing through it for today. Chop, chop,
Love it.
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Tell
much.
me how to save this afterwards.
What's that?
I said, tell me how to save this
I
afterwards.
will. Text me.
Thank you for doing this. You're
Thank you.
amazing.
Oh my gosh, you're always so amazing to talk to. I so appreciate it. And thanks for having me on. This is so fun.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.